G'day, my name is Udaman. Welcome to Full Disclosure, a series of interviews with game devs by a gamer who is also a game dev. Today I'm talking to Dylan Browne, whose game Caffeine is a wonderful sci-fi horror adventure game. But I'll let Dylan describe it in his own words. Dylan, tell me more about Caffeine.
Sure. Caffeine is set in space, but it's mainly a merging of psychological, horror, adventure, and puzzle gameplay. So you kind of wake up alone as a kid on an empty space station, which's sole purpose is to mine minerals to create synthetic caffeine.
That is a very interesting storyline. So it's a sci-fi horror set in space. So you're a kid wandering around this space station. So what is the core game mechanic? Is it exploration, puzzle solving, or?
It's mainly the core game mechanic is the exploration and kind of the feeling of being alone uh, and exploring the structure of the space station, but
Oh,
having also the horror elements on top of all that, with environmental puzzles to help break up the gameplay and make things a bit interesting.
right. So I mean, those kinds of games. Is that what sort of inspired you? Other games in that sort of genre?
Yeah, particularly on the horror level, I would say the mid 2000s, like a Doom 3 and Fear and Condemned
Mm-hmm.
would be the three main influences there. And on the exploration kind of level, I really like things with a strong narrative. For instance, Dear Esther, um, and kind of the puzzles probably inspired by Half-Life 2.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's quite a good mix, and I think a lot of people would be familiar with a lot of those. How long have you been working on Caffeine?
Caffeine's been in development since around March, and originally it was on an older engine, and we switched over in April. So,
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think I read somewhere that you were previously using Unreal Engine 3 or UDK, and now you've switched over to Unreal Engine 4.
yeah. So I made the switch as soon as it became available, and since then it's been a lot easier, and I'm now past the level where I was up to with on the UDK version.
Yeah, it seems like it's a lot more user friendly. Are you the only person working on the project, or have you got other people contributing?
I'm the main developer, and the only other contributors so far have been a friend of mine who did a skybox, and also some cool guys over in Florida who are doing the music for the game.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So yeah, you mentioned you using Unreal Engine. I mean, you want to speak a little bit about that? I mean, what advantages does? I mean, you mentioned it's a lot quicker than the previous version, but what advantages or maybe even what obstacles have you come across using Unreal Engine as opposed to maybe other things you looked at?
Well, originally, I have had a tiny bit of experience in Unity, but not really that much. It was really just playing around with the software. But the reason I went with Unreal Engine 3 originally was because I had experience in it through an online course I did, and it was quite easy to use. And in addition, the online community is like really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
There's
is that something you'd recommend to beginner game devs as well?
definitely, I mean, there's like loads of documentation and tutorials, and it just feels like the documentation is the strongest out of the possible engines you can start with,
Mm-hmm.
engine packages. Which and then led on to Unreal Engine 4 when that came out was it was even easier to use from a interface standpoint.
That's
Um,
cool.
yeah,
So yeah, with Caffeine, this sci-fi space adventure, how's it been received so far? Have you got a lot of good feedback from the game?
yeah, got a load of good feedback pretty much since I started showing it off online. I used to post lots of stuff right from the start, so screenshots, videos, the trailers garnered a lot of attention early on, and I finally got to show it off at a convention, AvCon, a few months ago here in Adelaide, and we got lots and lots of great feedback there. It was hardly ever no one at the booth, so that was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most of the compliments range from the visual aesthetic to uh, the interesting premise, usually.
Yeah. So, what was the most common question that people asked?
The most common question is, why are you so small? Uh, I you play as a child in the game, but most people don't actually read the synopsis.
Yeah.
But yes, that's probably the most common question.
And
Uh,
what was the? I mean, that one is probably a weird question for a lot of people.
yeah,
But what is the most weirdest question you've been asked?
the weirdest one was, would there be Miley Cyrus DLC, which was at AppCon.
Miley Cyrus, dear. Yeah, some people. Was that person who asked you, were they drunk or under the effects of some other kind of substance?
I'm not sure. He's actually a YouTuber, and he may have been on a lot of caffeine actually.
which is very apt given the title of the game. So,
Yes,
thanks very much for your time today, Dylan. I'll just leave you with one more question, which is: do you agree that gaming is a party and everyone's invited?
definitely, but only if there's coffee involved.
That's awesome. Okay, thank you very much, Dylan, and best of luck with Caffeine.
No problem. Thanks.